The best drift cars on low grip tires in GTA 5. After the release of the new Criminal Enterprises DLC, low grip tires are available on nearly every car in the game. And after countless hours of testing, I've created a list of my top picks for the best drift cars using low grip tires. If you find this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. And for more GTA 5 drifting content, check out my drifting playlist for weekly drifting guides, builds, and tips. Now, as there are so many cars that can have low grips installed, there are far more than 10 which are very capable of drifting. Obviously, I can't include them all in this video, but if this video is successful, I can release follow-up episodes showcasing some of the cars I couldn't include in this one. Also, if you guys have any other recommendations, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. With all of that out of the way, let's take a look at the cars. Our first pick for this list is going to be the Banshee 900R. Now, you're probably surprised why it's so low down, given that it's one of the game's best drift cars normally, but there's good reason for it. Drifting this thing is a challenge and will definitely test your abilities even for some of the more experienced drifters out there. It has very high power, and on low grip tires, its throttle and steering are incredibly sensitive, meaning the car is super easy to spin out. If you do manage to keep control of it, it is still an incredibly capable drift car, which can hold really long lines and transitions between drifts really nicely, but the issue is you have to link up your corners almost perfectly to stop the car from spinning out, because if you hit the corner with a bit too much angle, it's game over. The Banshee is based on the Dodge Viper and can be bought for $670,000, including the price of the Benny's upgrades. For this next entry, a lot of you probably wouldn't expect this car to be here. It's the Zion Classic, a pretty overlooked car in general, and I actually believe it's a very good drift car now that the low grips are available. The car costs $812,000 on the Southern San Andreas website and is based on the old 6 Series BMW. Now, this car is a pretty good drift car, but you will need to keep in mind it is a bit oversteery and does have kind of challenging handling, so you'll need to be a bit careful with your throttle and your steering input. That clutch kick especially does make the back end kick out quite a lot, as you will see from some of the other cars on this list, but if you get that down, get the technique sorted, this car can be a ton of fun to slide about, and I recommend you give it a go. Now we've got the Kirin Futo. You lot probably know it was pretty decent at drifting before, and now that's even more apparent on low grip tires. The main issue the car had was that its low power made it pretty difficult to hold longer slides or really drift at high speeds, but now it is so much better with the low grip tires. Its clutch kick makes it really easy to chain together drifts at those higher speeds or for really long chained out transitions, and honestly it is far superior to how it was without them. It's based on the Toyota Corolla, the 8611, and it costs $9,000 on the Southern San Andreas website. Again, this is another car that you have to have in your drifting garage. As you can tell, a lot of cars that were already decent at drifting without low grip tires are on this list, and that's certainly the case for the Benefactor Schwartzer. With low grips, the car can definitely be a handful, but when you stance it, this thing is gliding through those corners, and it's definitely one of my favorites to throw about. Now, throttle control is the name of the game here. It's probably the most important thing you need to keep in mind drifting this thing. If you give it just the slightest bit too much, you're going to spin out, and the annoying thing is there is no bailing out of the corners with these low grips on. The clutch kick makes the backhand kick out like crazy, and it is going to take you for a wild ride. The Schwartzer is based off of the Mercedes CL63 AMG, and you can buy it for 80 grand off of the Southern San Andreas website. For my next pick, it's going to be the Schafter V12, another great car for drifting, and personally I find it to have a bit more control than the Schwartzer at those higher speeds. It does also feel a bit heavier in the corners, so you'll probably need to enter with a bit more aggression to really get the thing sliding, but it feels super smooth and is really fun to handle. It's also got a great clutch kick, which gives you all the power you need to easily transition between drifts and keep the car sliding, but it doesn't have the same issue the Schwartzer does, where it oversteers to the point where you have to constantly watch the throttle. It's not as difficult as that car. It's a lot less hassle, and personally I prefer it. Now, this one is based off of the Brabus E V12 sedan, and you can buy it for $116K on Legendary Motorsports. For my next pick on the list, it's going to be the Anis Remus. It's another very popular drift car, and for good reason. It's super controllable and easy to transition with, which makes it quite friendly for beginners to use. It's also versatile enough for more experienced drifters to use thanks to its powerful clutch kick, which means sliding this thing more aggressively is not too difficult at all. Personally, I find it a little bit too slow for my own liking when it's on low grips, but it's still very smooth through the corners and you can hold some really nice lines with it. It's based on the Nissan Silvia S13, and if you want one, you can buy it on the Southern San Andreas website for $1,370,000. Now, there was no way I could make this video without touching on this car. It is the Futo GTX. It should come as no surprise to many of you that it's here, as it's an absolute beast at drifting and is by far one of the best drift cars for beginners in the game. It's very versatile and allows for all sorts of different drifting styles, all sorts of entries and different techniques that makes it really a good jack of all trades drift car for both beginners and pros alike. It's based on the Toyota Corolla, the 8.6 Sprinter Trueno, and it can be bought for $1,590,000 on Southern San Andreas. As some of you may know, muscle cars are absolutely brilliant for drifting in this game, and the same holds true with low grip tires. But one of my favorites has to be the Redwood Gauntlet, which is based on the Dodge Challenger. The lines that you can pull off with this thing are insane, and it's super smooth through the corners and has a ton of power from that clutch kick to keep the drifts going for ages. It's definitely a car you have to try out, and the best thing about it is the price, as the car costs absolutely nothing. It is free on the Southern San Andreas website, so do yourself a favor and pick one up. My next pick for this list is the Banshee Massacro, particularly the race car version. I've not been drifting this car for very long, and in that short time I've had to play around with it, it has massively impressed me. I'm not exaggerating for a second when I say this car is mental at drifting. Drifting this thing, once you've got it stanced, feels super nice. It has just the right amount of oversteer to allow you to get a good angle in your drift without sending you to the shadow realm. The car is based on the second generation Aston Martin Vanquish, and if you want one, you can cop it for $385,000 on Southern San Andreas. On a quick note, before we get to the number one spot, if you're interested in drifting with other people or joining organized car meets, join our crew's Discord server, which is linked in the description. We host all sorts of car meets and events every single day, and we're nearly at 5,500 members, so join up and become a part of our community now. And now, the Rapid GT. It's based on an Aston Martin V8 Vantage Roadster, and to snatch one up for yourself, head to Legendary Motorsports where you can buy one for 132 grand. Now, this car is brilliant on low grip tires. It handles like the Massacro on steroids and is by far one of the best drift cars to consistently link up really nice drifts at those higher speeds. The drifts that you can pull off with this thing can be super long and they're just ridiculous. Goes to show just how amazing this is as a drift car, as it's versatile both with and without low grip tires. I'd highly recommend you pick one up, and it's one of my favorite cars to drift in the game. If you want to improve your drifting, check out this video here to learn how to properly tune your drift cars. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day.